What's up, Vibers? I hope everyone is doing well. Last night, Theorycraft dropped a dev blog basically giving us a heads up of what's coming in the upcoming patch next week. So far, they've been operating on a bi-weekly patch cadence, but in the off weeks, we've either seen big hotfix and or a dev blog like this, basically just to keep us in communications of what they're thinking, and I have really appreciated that. So this is pretty short. Let's dive right in. Map updates and item balance, previewing some updates to the breach map, item balance, and more. I'll give you a quick teaser of these pictures down here of what we're about to get into. Hello Supervivors, today we're covering upcoming iterations to the breach map, a brief follow-up on our resident dunkers, and some thoughts on item balance. On to it. For our 1.0 launch, we made some big shifts to the breach, spreading out land masses, adding more abyss and wind tunnels, and creating sky sharks as a new form of long-distance traversal. Our goal with these changes was to give the map more variety, so fighting in different zones gives you unique combat situations to react to. Something we've been hearing more in the last few weeks is that several areas of the map are feeling pretty samey. We're looking to make some adjustments to address this feedback. Now, this is pretty cool, and I have been privileged to sort of like witness this forming up. So to make sure we're improving the right areas, we connected with some of our veteran players, folks who have put in hundreds of hours into SUPERVIVE. Their notes helped us narrow in on specific spots on the map that could benefit the most from an additional design level pass. And I can tell you that TC is not only continuing, but expanding their kind of reach and contact with players this invested in the game to make sure the changes they're looking at and working on are aligning for everyone. One of the biggest points we heard was that the map feels too chopped up with too many small islands breaking up the flow of play. This often caused endgames to collapse into the same few tight spots, with the Abyss forcing everyone together. Another theme was the Abyss fights themselves, though more plentiful, felt one note. We're tackling that by reintroducing more variety in Abyss spaces with a mix of tighter crossings and wider gaps to keep combat and movement interesting throughout the map. A few example areas we're updating with the patch coming next week. So we can see Ion Acres here, adding an additional mid-sized island in the large abyss between Ion Acres and Vane Grove. So this is basically, like right south of Kobayashi's pretty much. There was a single island here previously, but feeling more like an outpost for a single team to hold rather than a contestable space. We hope a second island may make this area more skirmishable. Also adding a wind ring to help north-south access into Kobayashi's. Another example are these changes to Enshrine down here, which is looking really cool. Extending Enshrine landmass north to avoid large gap of abyss, connecting northern and eastern landmasses with bridges to give an alternate traversal path between these sections, adding dock elements below the train tracks south of Prisma Falls, which looks really cool with one of my favorite things in the sandbox, grind rails, as well as spike pillars. This replaces the large empty space that was there with a wider combat playground that isn't just the train tracks themselves. And at the end of this section, it says there are quite a few changes in this style in 1.03. So these are just a few examples of what we can expect coming with the patch next week. And they say, take a look next week and let them know if there are any areas of the map that you feel they have missed. All right, scrolling down, we see the next kind of big section here is item balance. It says we've made some, and I'll give you a little look here. These are some updated visuals. Paladin's Primer and Wildfire Drive. We've made some balance changes to Armory items over the last couple patches, and we have some more of these in 1.03. This batch we're focused on a few wider goals. Number one, making healing/utility item options more appealing. While there's nothing wrong with players gravitating their builds toward aggression, when we're seeing protectors and controllers choosing offensive items en masse, it's an indicator that we need to make sure the defensive options we have are hitting the mark. We're going to do a pass on our more defensive relics and grips to make sure they're compelling alternatives to going face every game. Number two, active item consistency. After looking at the data around active items, it's clear that some are too strong or that the active effect is available too frequently. We'll be looking to bring these options more in line with the median, in some cases with cooldown increases or changes to their outputs. This also means looking at the actives which are feeling neglected or unpopular and seeing if it's a matter of the cooldown being too long or if it's the effect itself that isn't sticking with players. We're not looking to make popular items unviable, more to reduce the gap between item tiers to let players express different playstyles without feeling like they're forced into a single competitive build. Unrelated to balance specifically, and these are these pictures here, we are also shipping some VFX updates to Paladin's Primer and Wildfire Drive to make their effects and ranges more clear. Wanted to share them because they look cool. They do look pretty cool. And finally, we have this last section on dunking hunters. It says, last patch we shipped a new set of combat changes around dunking abilities. We've been keeping an eye on hunters affected by these adjustments to make sure we're not seeing any major impacts to their strengths or play patterns. At the moment, we're planning on giving Kingpin some QOL buffs, and this is interesting, are looking into adjusting emergency platform more towards creating holdable terrain in the Abyss rather than just existing as anti-dunk tech. Interesting. And closing out, it says, though we probably won't be able to ship the fixes until a later patch, we're also still cataloging the most frequently player-reported bugs and looking to another focus sprint to burn that list down. And they want to make sure you know that they appreciate everyone who documents these changes in the Discord, on the player website, or in social media, especially those who provide video apparently you're the real heroes. And they say, see you for 1.03 next week, the Vibe team. So pretty cool, quick little dev blog here to give us an idea of what to expect and what's coming next week. And so we can expect to see, kind of these changes and more in the patch notes hitting next Wednesday. That's all we got for this one. It's going to be a super hype weekend of SUPERVIVE with all the tournaments I mentioned in my previous video, and all that's going to be leading up to this patch next week. So excited for more progression for SUPERVIVE. With that, I hope you are doing well. Remember to take care of yourself and keep vibing. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.